What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is the Oddsmakers, presented by Superbook Sports. I'm Jonathan Von Tobel, Jake Kornegay alongside, and what has already been an adventurous day. What's up, Jake Kornegay?
Yeah, it's a little different. First of all, you're 45 minutes late.
Okay, well, we're going to open up right with that. There's a very
shots fired.
For those who aren't familiar with the Las Vegas area, the I-15 is just such a well-oiled machine.
It is.
That cuts through the heart of the city, and very often for a 5-lane freeway gets backed up. But there was an accident that blocked away 3.5 lanes that your boy got stuck in for an hour and 35 minutes. So
well, I only took that shot at you because Murray's not on the set today, so I decided I'd take his place.
Well, also, to bring people even further behind the scenes and the curtain, I requested a 30-minute early record time today, and I was 40 minutes late. So we're off to a rip-roaring start. But anyway, how was the week in the National Football League, Jay?
It was all right. I mean, we had a rough Friday, Saturday. Sunday was pretty decent. Had a good winner there, and then nobody really cared about the game on Monday. I think we ended up being a small loser. I know the majority of the action that was, played was on the Patriots. So it was okay weekend. I mean, not too bad. We're really focusing on these bowl games coming up as they start on Friday, and once they start, they never end. And all about this transfer portal that we have to deal with.
Yep.
That heartburn every day. So we're keeping an eye on that. That's really our main focus these days.
2 follow-ups from last weekend. First off, the college ranks. We did see Army-Navy. The game going over the total, how much did that help you out?
A little bit. I mean, when you talk about that game, most people figure, especially the betting public, they go under.
Right.
I mean, they think of it as the blue-gray game or something, because it's always normally, for a couple of years though, it ran, right?
Yeah.
It ran some big numbers there on the total, but I guess the over helped us a little bit, but not much.
Okay. I figured everybody and their mother was talking about, did you know that the under in Service Academy games, so all right. It's a total of 32. There's a chance that this thing goes over.
Well, how long ago was it when they were racking up some points?
I'd have to go back, but it's
6-7 years ago or something.
The trend was 41-7. Those 7 happened in a very close span to one another. My other follow-up question was, you mentioned Monday night and how boring that was. How much does in-game handle get hurt by a guy like Kyler Murray going down early? I would assume that there's not a lot of people who now all of a sudden find themselves wanting to get involved in a game that doesn't have one of the best players.
I think it goes both ways. Yeah. There's some that think, I got to take some action, and I'll take the Cardinals now, the Patriots, because Murray's out. So I think it does trigger some to bet into it and others to forget it. I think the majority, as you say, all right, I'm done. But, we were talking about those bad beats, and I keep telling everybody, listen, there's 2 sides to that. There's guys that actually had under on Murray props. They had a lot of no's on Murray props. They all cashed, didn't say a word. But injuries are part of sports betting. And I know that's a bad break, but sometimes you're, on the winning side of those things. But certainly there's always 2 sides, but we know what side is a little bit more vocal.
I have a Pistons over win total of 26.5. Great number. It closed 29.5 on the win total. Kate Cunningham just underwent season-ending surgery, though, so I assume I'm going to go look for a refund on that.
Good luck.
Okay. It was bet in Las Vegas. You know what the answer is going to be. All right, we move on. NFL Week 15 games of the week will begin in the NFC West. 49ers and Brock Purdy on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. The Superbook line, this is interesting because we saw the look-ahead line, 1.5 in favor of San Francisco. We're currently sitting in 3 with juice to the favorite side at -120. Total look-ahead was 41.5. You guys opened 43, and that's pretty much where we're at right now. What has early action been like here, and what do you expect for Brock Purdy? Look, road contests aren't what they used to be in the National Football League. Still a pretty big test to go on the road on a short week against a divisional opponent for a 7th-round rookie, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, always a test. Always a test going on the road on a Thursday night. So, and this one, being a pretty big game for both teams, and Seahawks were really flat last week against the Panthers. I expect the Niners to come out and play pretty well, but expect the Seahawks to give a pretty good effort here. Purdy, I just saw that, a couple hours ago. Oblique. You know where your oblique is?
I do, actually. Isn't that they're here, right? Yeah.
Somewhere right around here. Yeah. I mean, that might be hurting to throw a little bit, but that line came down a little bit. There were some 3.5s. Now most everybody's at 3 right now, 3 -120. But the betting public, as you can imagine, all over the Niners. About 86% of all the tickets right now in San Francisco.
I assume, as our producer Jeremiah raised his hand, all over San Francisco, I assume the oblique is important with the torque when you're throwing. You know what I mean?
I would think so. I'm not sure if it's. Do you have 2 obliques or just one?
Yes, you have 2 obliques. That's an incredible question. Yes, one for each side.
Yeah.
I haven't seen my oblique for quite a few years, but I know it's there.
I have that move. But is it his right side or left side?
That I do not know. I'll have to look it up for you.
Okay.
Either way, I would assume it is a pain to throw. Follow-up gambling question, not anatomy question. Although I am going to take my wife to go see that bodies exhibit over at the Luxor out here in Las Vegas in a couple of days. The Seahawks have failed to cover the last 4 games. How much have you adjusted? Because this was a team that was covering numbers like nobody's business. Now, all of a sudden, Geno Smith has kind of turned into a pumpkin. He's not played very well the last couple of games, and this team has been failing to cover some numbers in the market. Kind of finally started to turn around, respect it, and now all of a sudden it can't do anything right.
Right. Now, they can't run the ball.
Yep.
I mean, not on a consistent basis, but I don't know. I thought Geno was still playing okay. His receivers are okay, but their defense is a sieve now. They can't stop anybody. And so, that's something that I know that the betting public, and you said 4 times in a row, we take it on the other side of the counter. We take it week by week. We just adjust it. I couldn't have told you that they lost or didn't cover the spread in 4 straight weeks. I didn't know that. All we do is adjust the power rankings each and every week, and that power ranking has been going down for 4 consecutive weeks.
We move on to the Miami Dolphins, a team that has fallen on some hard times from a results standpoint. So you said week to week. I would assume last 2 weeks, a little bit of a deduction in the Miami Dolphins power rating. Now, this is a tough spot because you lose consecutive games, and now you get to hit the road to take on Buffalo. Short week. This is a Saturday game, so we get now Saturday contests in the NFL, which are always a lot of fun. You guys look ahead with 7.5. You actually got bet down to 6.5, and then you reopened at 6.5, and now you're back up to 7. I don't need to tell you, but I'm telling the audience, of course.
Sure.
With a total of 42. So I will ask you, what is the public backed side here between these two? I know where I'm at with this game. I'll tell you shortly.
Yeah, it's actually a love-hate relationship with both of these teams, with the betting public. The Dolphins were the darlings of the NFL, I think, week 3 when they beat the Bills. And then the love affair with the Bills, started off, and it was when they were dating. I mean, it was pure love, right, for the Bills. But then all of a sudden, a couple weeks, they didn't cover, they didn't cash tickets, and they kind of been struggling ever since then. So I think they're starting to warm up a little bit, with the Bills again. But it's been a roller coaster ride for both of these teams as far as the betting public is concerned. 78% of the tickets actually are on the Bills. I haven't seen any sharp money on this game whatsoever. As you mentioned, we're at 7 minus 120. I think that we're going to probably see a majority of the tickets be on the Bills. In fact, I think that's going to increase. It's a late night, 5 o'clock, Pacific time start. I think by that time the public will be all juiced up, ready to bet on the Bills, and I think it's going to be, that ticket count's going to be somewhere in that 85%. I think the question is, we haven't seen any sharp money. What are they going to do with this game? I think it's going to be very interesting because that Dolphin team, the last 2 weeks, as you said,
Tua hasn't looked good at all, right?
Squeaky parts there.
Tua has been very inaccurate. When you're talking about like literal accuracy, there are some metrics that measure that. He's been below 50% each of the last 2 games. Has not really looked right. And one of those defenses he faced was one of the best in the 49ers, and he's getting another one here in Buffalo. I tease this down, and I would assume that this Buffalo Bills team is going to be a popular teaser leg, getting down through 7 and 3 and getting it down to like 1.5.
Great. Thanks for letting everybody know.
It's what I do here, our adversarial relationship.
That.
You got to find another teaser leg, though, and there's not really that many to choose from this coming weekend. So.
I love to tell my execs, okay, the only way we can win money is that the Dolphins win outright. Really? Yeah. Sorry.
All right, we go on to the Titans and the Chargers, 2 teams that could be heading in the opposite direction. Chargers looking pretty good lately, and they're starting to maybe turn things around to become the team that we expected them to. You guys look ahead with 2 at Superbook. We're up to 3 again with some altered juice. If you want to take the Tennessee Titans, you're laying minus 120. So not surprised there. It's a key number. It seems like maybe you're protecting a little bit with some sharps, dare I say, coming in to back the Titans. Total of 47.5. So what are we expecting here? Just altering juice on the 3 throughout the week?
I think so. I don't think we're going to be jumping on and off. First of all, it's not a high volume game, even though majority of the people are playing the Chargers, and that's really based off of last week. Titans looks really bad. And the Chargers, I'm looking at right now, 90% of the tickets right now on the Chargers. Wow. But I expect some sharp play to come back on Tennessee here. I don't think it's going to be enough to drive it off the 3 again. I think it's going to be a variation of a split line there for the whole week.
Do you tend to see that like big win, primetime spot, now coming back the next week, public's like, that team, I'm all over it. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, short-term memory for the betting public. We always tell them that's one of their biggest faults. You can't just look at last week, and you got to look beyond that. And but unfortunately, that's the nature of a lot of these bettors that are out there. What have you done for me lately? Sometimes it works. I understand that. We just talked about the Dolphins. We talked about other teams that struggle for multiple weeks, like the Seahawks. All of a sudden, these two teams, Chargers, have a little bit of life. People are on them again. Titans, not so much.
How much have you downgraded Tennessee over the last 3 weeks? It's been pretty bad.
Yeah, quite a bit. They usually rely on Henry, and they just pound him. I mean, he's getting some yards, but he's just not dominating anymore. They're finding ways to stop him, making Tannehill throw it, and it's just those are mixed results there. But very surprised. I'm actually surprised that they've fallen back a little bit over these last couple of weeks.
Were the Sharps in on Tennessee throughout the year?
Always.
Really?
They love the they love the Titans. So it's they've been like that for a couple of years. Doesn't it feel like it?
Well, they has, but like for me, and I sound surprised because there's a lot of Sharps who are very metric based, and a lot of metrics would point to the Titans being a very poor team getting by with smoke and mirrors. And I would assume that this is actually one of those teams that you've seen this before, right? Where some of these Sharps get a little stubborn and they keep backing the team that continues to cover. They're like, no, this will regress at some point. I figured the Titans would be that.
Yeah, they've been like that for a couple of years now. Titans and the Jaguars. I put them in the same category as they're like sneaky little sharp plays, and they've been supporting those two teams over the last 2 years. So it doesn't really surprise me that we expect some Titans money here. Especially if it gets to 3 flat, maybe even. I mean, if the public drives this thing, which they will, it could be late, but the public money should drive that to 3 flat, and maybe even -3, -$1.20.
By the way, the best example of that was that Browns team. What was that with Hugh Jackson? Did they go winless or they won one game? And the Sharps were backing them like, right? And they were backing them almost every single year or every single week that year. It was a very weird thing that the Sharps were backing that team, and yet every week they failed to cover. All right, move on. AFC North matchup. Well, at least one team. Bengals on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is interesting because the games we're talking about, a lot of them, it's like two teams that are kind of moving away from each other in terms of the way that they've been playing. Bengals one of those teams that continue to cover numbers. They're playing really good football. And the Buccaneers, I mean, I feel like that was like the bottom point of the season almost, getting smoked by Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. I could be wrong. And then Tom Brady having to autograph footballs that were intercepted after the game. It seemed like a low point for Tampa Bay. Bengals 3.5 with a total of 44. I'm kind of asking you the same questions, but I do find it interesting. I mean, Cincinnati, they are among the top 3 in the AFC. The question is, are they 1, 2, or 3?
I would certainly put them at 3 right now. But, they kind of been under the radar. We talk about all these love-hate relationships with all these teams, and the Buccaneers certainly falls under that category. The Bengals, not so much. They've been pretty consistent, for the most part throughout the year. And you haven't seen that roller coaster ride that you've seen with these other teams. Mm-hmm. But right now, you look at it, look at how popular the Buccaneers were in the first part of the year. And now, what are they, 6 and 7? The public doesn't want anything to do with these guys. We've got 75% of the tickets right now in Cincinnati, and I expect that to grow again. I think the support and Tom Brady, everybody now is just bailing on Tom and the Buccaneers. But as I say all the time, when the public starts to drive this thing up, expect some sharp money on the other side.
Man, it's crazy. The Bucs have covered one game since September 18th. One game.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they've covered one game since September 18th. They have a push in there. That was that Rams game where they came back and they were 3-point favorites and they ended up winning by 3.
Holy moly.
But yeah, they've covered one game since then, man. It was that Germany game, by the way, against the Seattle Seahawks, for those who don't remember. They went to Munich and they won that game.
I don't remember.
As 2.5-point favorites. Well, you got a lot of things going on. I'm here for our audience. I'm the regular everyday guy. I'm the representative, I'm the fan here. By the way, at the Superbook, the Cincinnati Bengals, if you are so inclined, 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. I've got him at 15-1. I'm just saying. Watch out, baby.
Going into this year, Burrow was taking a lot of shots. Remember last year? He was taking some shots. And I really expected him to actually get beat up this year.
Yep.
Because he was going to hold on to it a little bit more, and Chase is gone for a couple weeks. I really thought he was going to get beat up, but I give it to him. The guy just keeps performing. It's amazing. Now their receiving core is like all beat up going into this game. But they're finding ways. I think they're going to probably try to run the ball a lot, against Tampa Bay this week.
He's only been under pressure on 26.8% of his dropbacks this season. For those who don't know, it's a really minuscule amount, and that is compared to last year, 34.3%. So that offensive line has gotten so much better for him, and this offense overall has benefited from it. They're dangerous. I will say that much. They are very dangerous.
He's also improved, when he scrambles a little bit, getting down earlier.
Yep.
He was taking some hits last year, and he's also running out of bounds a little bit more than he did last year. So he's actually come a long way, especially with his scrambling and staying healthy.
All right, we move on to arguably the hottest team in the National Football League. Thank God John's not here. The Washington Commanders. Mm-hmm. What are we doing with the Washington FC, the football club, playing host to the New York Giants? And how much have you upgraded them? Because this role that they've been on is incredible. 4.5 here at the Superbook right now with a total of 40. And this Giants team, I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I will reiterate. I don't think I'm getting over on this win total with New York. I have them at 7, over 7. I don't think they're going to get another win the rest of the way.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen.
You have to bring up that schedule because I have no idea who they're facing, but I can tell you about the Commanders. Despite all their recent success, all right, they've been doing pretty well. They are not a public team whatsoever. I'm looking at it right now. Look how bad the Giants have looked over the last few weeks. They look a little tired. They look beat up. Remember how in the early part of the season it was great coaching, and and they looked, their coach is bringing them a long way. All of a sudden, now they look like crap. All right, and now 80% of the Commanders have looked great. This doesn't make sense to me. This one, 80% of the tickets on New York. How do you explain that?
I have no idea, especially for a team that, again, you don't know this, 6-1-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 8 games. To your point, we've talked about this a lot, right? Teams that consistently deliver, generally the public will get behind. Washington, just not sexy enough.
Nope. There's nothing sexy about them whatsoever. They haven't seen them. They haven't. Finally, they're going to be on some national TV here. Maybe that will change it. But, they have seen the Giants. Okay, they have seen them and how poor they have looked and played over the last few weeks, yet they're still supporting it. That goes against everything I tell people.
I guess the common thing, as an NBA guy, I would tie it to, you generally see when they play like the same opponent consecutively, the market will generally gravitate toward the team that failed to cover the previous match. Yeah. Right? In Washington, like their last game was against New York. Yeah. So I would think maybe that is the thought process. Like, of course they're going to split.
Well, but that theory of mine going, what you saw last week carries over, right? Doesn't apply to that game.
There was a bye week in between.
Well, that's true.
There was 10 days. Yeah, there's some time that separated them. All right. Before we move on to the Super Contest, any big ticket wagers that were worth mentioning at all so far?
We have a few 5-figure wagers right now. Pretty healthy, actually. They took the Seahawks plus 3.5. And they laid the Niners at -3. So that's a good one for us. All right.
There you go. Jeremiah.
Okay. Yeah, just wait. It lands 3. Thanks. The other one, Browns, 2.5. A pretty healthy 5-figure bet on them. What is the current line on the Browns?
Tell you 5 seconds. Right. I think it's still sitting at that 2.5 for you guys here at Superbook.
That's what I thought because
2.5 minus 120.
It was probably somebody different. As far as who wagered on that, and the healthy 5 figures, it's still 2.5. So we like the guy. He's a good guy.
It's a good guy. Can I tell you that it's a great story? I was this was years ago. I was at a book that doesn't really like a lot of smart people, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And some guy started screaming at me because I took his chair, and he goes, "They know me here. I'm a big spender." My response was, "It's why they like you. So don't worry, buddy. I won't get in your way, but there's a reason why they cater to your every whim."
Was Murray pissed?
No, it was out in New Jersey. I loved it. It was out in Jersey. Okay. So it was a long time ago before I had children. All right, we move on to. By the way, can I ask really quickly, because it is a great point to let our audience know. Just because you see it's a big bet, because big bets make like the big deal, right? Doesn't mean it's a sharp bet. Just put it out there.
That's right.
Make myself feel better about myself.
There's been some talk on social about when we give out percentage of tickets and everything like that. We never said it was a handicapping tool. So now I got to put a disclaimer out there. It's for entertainment purposes only, right? That's why we share all this stuff. And you take this information and you can do whatever you want with it. But a lot of people do enjoy that type of information, where the big bets came in, where the sharp plays, the number of tickets. Some people use that as a handicapping tool. Others look at it as entertainment, and I'm kind of in that category. But I think it's pretty interesting. We get asked that question all the time. So those that are out there thinking that we're just sharing this as pure handicapping information, that's not true. A lot of it's just entertainment.
And there's some respected bettors who bet like $100 a pop, right?
Yeah.
All right, Super Contest update. Heineken 21, 4-1 yet again. Now in the lead, 50 out of a possible 70 points. The antithesis of the Jonathan Von Tobel season, 71%.
Nice. Look at that.
I'm not literally at 30. What is that?
What are you? I can't even.
Whatever.
Yours is in red. What's that mean?
That means it wasn't great. 2-3 last week. I will say, can I say very quickly?
Yes.
I feel like I deserved a better week in the contest. The safety that the Bills gave up, that was one of the losses.
That was one of the biggest wins that we had.
Oh,
sorry.
So ridiculous. They give up the safety, and I was like, okay, I know that's going to screw me. And then Arizona. I mean, Kyler Murray going. The Patriots looked terrible in that game. If Kyler Murray plays in that game, they win. I'm just going to say it.
So the refund doesn't count?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
You guys are not going to go back, as we discussed legally. You are not going to go back and retroactively change my entries in the Super Contest. That is not the way it works. Others worth noting: Murray 4-1 in another contest.
Sharp.
Look at him, 42, 26-2 on the season, and Jake Kornegay 3-2 last week in the LVRJ. It's a paper out here.
Yeah, just keep plugging along.
Weekly missive. What are you? 38, 31-1.
38, 31-1. Yeah.
By the way, I don't know why it's a newspaper. It's not a weekly missive. It's a daily newspaper.
People can see it. People can look it up. Review Journal.
Right, but I mentioned it like it was like a magazine. it's a daily newspaper.
Yeah. I don't really hear anything. Last year, yes, I did win that contest, and there's some pretty sharp guys in there. I like to give them a hard time. I don't really. I'm definitely not a handicapper. I'm a bookmaker. I'm an oddsmaker. I run a sports book. I'm not a handicapper, but I try to save face in here because if I go under 500, I'm going to hear about it.
Oh yeah,
there's no doubt. I mean, I have people come out to me in grocery stores and saying that their daughter could pick better than me. I go, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It's like
feels aggressive.
She looking for a job or
no?
I'm serious. That's a true story.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Like you're just sifting through the bananas trying to find a good bunch, and they're just like, "Hey Jay, my daughter can pick better than you." A lot to pick apart there too.
I'm sure it might have been the cereal. I'm not sure.
I feel you. I had a really good season last season, and you and John just keep going at me because it's just been a bad year, man.
Well, yeah, that's what happens. That's the nature of the beast, right?
Took $1,200
to my point. And it's like when you do well, and no one really gives the crap.
No,
you're right. And when you struggle, you're going to hear it in the banana section. Right?
As an influencer, it's great. It's actually a great topic. So the other day, I bet the Suns Celtics game. I don't know if you caught this. The Celtics beat the Suns by I think a bajillion, and I bet the Phoenix Suns in that game. Now, luckily, you don't lose per point, so it's just a bet. I lost. I got a response which was, "Does it count if you lost by 50?" And I was like, "All right, no, it doesn't. It's one loss and we move on." I was wrong. Who cares? It all costs the same, baby.
Oh man, Murray can point from a lot of different directions.
It probably was a John Murray burner account.
Yeah, it was.
He loves Twitter. College football. We move on. So obviously, semifinals are still set. We'll start with Georgia, Ohio State. Anything else? You guys took your position, right? You thought 7 was a little high if it got there, and you're still sitting at 6.5.
Yeah, I mean the total's what really moved, right? We opened at 60.5, now at 62. It's really been all Georgia. It's 87% of the tickets right now, and I expect that to go up. It's going to push it to 7. In fact, I think it's, if you want 6.5, you better look at it now because I think it's going to go up to 7 even more. And from what we're hearing, there could be some sharp play on Georgia as well. So we'll see how that all pans out. But
made that bet in confidence.
Man, that game is going to be high volume. There's going to be a tremendous amount of action on it, and like I said, 87% of the tickets on Georgia. I think that's going to continue all the way to kickoff.
Is that one of those rare, sharp public, everybody and their mother, Georgia all the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I like it. So,
well, unless you get over 7. I mean, that's why.
Well, of course, right. If you get to 7, then there are groups who will just grab 7.5, right? If it gets there.
Yeah.
Interesting. What about the other one? Michigan, TCU. That's going to be a boring game, right? From a handle standpoint, in comparison to the other one, I should say.
I don't know. I'm kind of interested in that one too. I think it's pretty. I just like TCU. I'm rooting for them. But we opened 9, drove it down to 7.5. All the tickets on Michigan, but we expect the public to just unload on the Wolverines as we get closer to kickoff. And I think it's actually going to close back to where the opening number was.
Really?
Yep. I think it's going to go all the way back up, probably 8.5, 9. Yeah.
Does public money have more sway in big standalone games like this?
A little bit, because just pure volume.
Right.
I mean, if the publics are all over the command, or say the Giants over the Commanders, it's really not going to make a big difference for us. But when you look at high volume games, really big games, and they really can dictate, or I would be more willing to move on something like that, just because the amount that adds up, that liability can accumulate, and sometimes you have to respect it. Now, it really depends on the number too. I'm not going to move it off 3 or something like that. But when I'm messing around with 7.5, or we're messing around 7.5, 8, 8.5, yeah, sure, we'll bump it up a little bit.
Well, and I bring this. Well, obviously, as we get closer to the Super Bowl, we can talk about this too. But Matt Humans, my colleague over at Visa,
hey Matt,
and other spots, we talk about this quite a bit when it comes to these big events, which is the public has a little bit more sway. Super Bowl is one of those too. Like, there's so much money in the pot where you'll actually see, like you said, you'll be more willing on some different numbers to actually move in a direction, just because the public has a little bit more influence.
Well, we used to always say that the public money doesn't really matter, except for the big games, especially a Super Bowl. Yeah. It really can control, the number. It can control your liability, and therefore it controls the number. And it really depends on what number we're talking about. I remember a local place here in town. Remember when the line was 7, the Super Bowl, and they offered -6.5, and also the other side +7.5. Do you remember that?
No, really?
Yeah. And then the liability accumulated so much that they stopped offering it. It was about 2 days before the Super Bowl.
Like the game entirely?
The line was 7, and so you could go to this place and lay 6.5 or take 7.5. And did it have it? And I can't remember. I mean, Ed and Jeff, they always remember I think it was the Panthers and Patriots. I think that's the game. But the liability accumulated so fast that they were ready to lose a big chunk, and they decided, to pull it off.
Wow!
And then during the game, it was probably late third quarter, early fourth quarter. It wasn't, the last 2 minutes, but it was like, this thing could land 7. It was pretty. It was. I gotta say, their sphincter might have been a little tight.
You think? Yeah. Mine would. I'm not even a guy that runs it. My thing would be tight. All right. Before we get out of here, the world's game, the most beautiful one, World Cup. Mm-hmm. We have a final set for Sunday.
Yay.
Argentina and France. You don't sound excited.
No, I love it.
Okay,
I do.
Early morning too, 7 a.m. because they don't want to get in the way of the National Football League. So
is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I would assume, because usually these quarterfinals have gone off our time, at least at 11 o'clock, right? Which would be a little bit better. But I would assume if you are the World Cup, you want to put this up 4 hours earlier because you don't want to go head to head with the National Football League. You kill your American audience.
You really think? Is that a big audience?
Oh America? Yeah, I think so. It's a chunk of the audience,
really,
for sure.
We're talking about the world game here,
that's
okay?
Right.
And there's so many Americans that mock it, right? But I know that there's a lot of soccer fans around here. We proved that, the last couple of days. But do you really think they looked at it and said, let's see, you got the NFL game. All right, we got the Commanders and the Giants. They're not till later. So let's move this game to early.
I think absolutely.
You really? I don't believe that.
I mean, think about it this way. TV ratings are very important, right?
Yeah.
And so even if to your point, right, you're saying that the American audience wouldn't make up that much of it, you, as whoever is the powers that be in terms of TV ratings, you have an option to put it at this time and have your ratings look like this, or put it at this time and have your ratings look like this. I think you're just maximizing your opportunity to get the most eyes on it.
I think the American market makes this much influence on the ratings.
Any little bit helps,
I
baby.
guess.
Any little bit helps.
That's what they say.
You guys essentially have this pick, France-Argentina. How do you guys make out, first off, with this matchup?
It's I guess the opposite of one another. We win quite a bit on France, and we lose quite a bit on Argentina.
Really?
Yeah. So we open picked. I was telling Sherman, I was like, go ahead and make Argentina my favorite.
That's actually. Will you guys shade your odds for an individual game to reflect what you have as liability?
At times.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And even this one, let's see. This World Cup has actually been very disappointing. And I'm a fan. I've been to a World Cup. I was out in Germany for 3 years. I get it. But the volume that we've seen this World Cup going against football, basketball, hockey, and everything doesn't even scratch the surface of what we've seen in previous years.
Oh, in the summer?
Oh,
there was really nothing going on.
When they have the main stage all by themselves, I mean, the volume is just tremendous, and it really did cost us quite a bit. So I'm not sure if they'll ever do that again. Maybe, I don't know if they actually care about, where they're, influencing or going head to head to American sports. I'm not sure if that's a big difference, but I think, having the main stage to themselves, in most of the sports world, makes a big difference.
If Argentina wins, what's the loss comparable to for you guys? Like, I'd assume it's a loss, but not, given what you're saying about the handle and the popularity of it, wouldn't be like terrible.
No, I think that would be comparable to one of those college playoff games.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like it. All right. Hey, make sure to come see us at the Superbook at the Westgate in Las Vegas or at the Lodge Casino in Black Hawk, Colorado. We're going to be here all weekend showing all the biggest college football games when the bowls begin, because those are getting started in the last couple of days, and the National Football League as well. We have Thursday games, Saturday games, Sunday games. The NFL started to take over. And as always, you can follow us on social. Superbook Sports is the spot. Superbook.com. Stay on top of all the latest odds, boosts, and promos. For Jay and myself, the Oddsmakers presented by Superbook Sports is done. We'll talk to you next week.